Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And it's Monday, it's February 25th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And um, we started off trending to the upside. Really, at the open, we went flat pretty quickly. We were in a tighter range here, and then we dropped down. And so, just you always want to measure that distance and look for something to possibly happen at that level. And notice how we bounced there once, and then we double tested it and shot back to the upside, and then we sold off. And it wasn't surprising that we sold off. Notice where we closed the previous day, and then we opened here. We never filled that gap, and we traded up. Well, plus we've traded up to about 2,800, so it didn't surprise me at all that we sold off. I was a little surprised that we rallied this strongly before the sell-off. But that's what they do. They try to throw you off, and then next thing you know, prices are going down. And this thing was really steep here on this two-tiered channel, and we overshot it. And what we ended up doing was just going in a little flatter channel, and we stayed in that flatter, the darker channel the rest of the day. It really didn't come into play. Really, you didn't need it, but I put it on there just so you can kind of see what's going on and kind of see how the price action looked there. And but there's a steeper channel right here as well. These two lighter lines right here. Maybe I ought to make them a different color just to make it a little easier to see. And we'll just darken it too. So you can see that kind of brownish channel was really what you needed to play there. And then by the time you got back to this channel, there were a couple more possible trades up here this afternoon. But you had to be a little patient. You didn't really get a good trade till almost 9 o'clock this morning. And somebody asked me about that in an email about being patient, and it's tough. And that's the key to being able to trade successfully, is being able to sit here for long periods of time and do nothing. And what happens is most people sit here and they see it going higher and higher, and they don't see a setup, and then just about up in here somewhere they'll take a long, and it'll fail on them, and it'll back off, and then they'll decide to go short, and then it bounces like this, and they just get chopped all to pieces because they're impatient. They don't really know where prices are heading. They're just guessing. And if you guess at this in this business, you're just gambling. And if you're a gambler, you're going to lose. You're not going to make money. You need to be able to read this chart and understand what prices are doing. It was obvious they'd gone sideways here, and you need to play this as a range. And when it broke out here, the odds are it's going to fail, and it's probably going to reverse as well, and it did. And this looked really strong out of here, but it didn't take it very long to reverse, and boom. And if you got in up here, you could have caught a major high. And this one you might even, I didn't mark it, but I'll be honest with you, I like that trade, and I wouldn't be afraid to really mark it green. And I'll explain that. I'll go ahead and put a green arrow there. And I like that trade. That's the kind of trade where you catch a major high of the day, and if it's in the reverse, where you're buying down here, you might catch a major low right there if we ended up making another leg up similar to this first one. But with that gap there and us being around 2,800, it didn't surprise me that we quickly sold off and went back and tried to fill that gap. You can see we still haven't quite filled it. We got to trade a little bit lower before we fill that gap. So there's definitely still a gap on that daily chart. So it wouldn't surprise me if we don't continue lower. But let's back out, talk about the trades, and wrap it up. There's not a lot of trades today, but there's some pretty good trades. So again, there's one right here just after 7 o'clock. Notice how we came back to the EMA, and there's a first entry, and then it pulls back. And so when it broke higher here, this was a second entry long. It's not a great one because you're going long right into the highs, but that's a strong key entry point up through there. And so, you may want to take that trade. And this looks like a pretty strong trend working up through here. The better one's to wait here when you got your first break and it comes down and bounces off the EMA. That's the first time we've been back to the EMA since just after 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. So we've been away for 4 or 5 hours, and notice that you had a low, you tested it once, and that's a double test there. So I like going long right there. We do come down and we get another little double test and a little failed second entry short. It bounces right off that low and breaks and goes higher. And by that time, it was pretty obvious when we turned down again there that we may be in a range. And so I ended up moving this down. I think this earlier I had it up here a little higher, but later on I think it had moved down. You can see that's a perfect midline there basically. But anyway, there's a failed breakout here, but generally you need a lower high, and you don't get that till here, and then you make a failed second entry long, and that's a little breakout pullback short. The fact that that bar is so bearish, I kind of like going short there. It's only good for a scalp, and then it bounces, and of course you're looking for it just to go that measured move like I showed you earlier, right down to here. And notice how it bounces off that to the tick. And then you got a low, you got a first entry, you move up back inside the range, you get a second entry short that fails and goes higher. I like going long right there, just to ride it back to the top at the very minimum, and you never know, you may catch a low and it keeps going. In this case, it turns back down. It's tempting to go short right there, but you got a trend line working up, and there's been no break of it at all till here, and this thing, unfortunately, just sells right off. But there's nothing you can do. Just like from here to here, you had to be patient. Let me just see how long that is. I'm really curious now. From about I'd say from about 7:45 to 8:40. So for a whole hour, you had to just sit there and you just kind of watch this thing doing much of nothing. And then you get you take a trade right here around 9, and if you don't take any of these greens, you got to sit patient all the way to 11 o'clock almost. There's 2 hours you got to sit there and watch this thing, and that's where people fail. They cannot do it. They think that they're always constantly looking for an entry, and they think they should be able to find an entry at any time. Well, you can't do that. If you follow the rules and you only take the entries as we teach them and the way they set up, then you increase your odds exponentially. But when you're in this range, you're only buying the lows and selling the highs, and there's no highs here to sell until up here. And there's a few lows to buy in here, and I marked this one green. You might argue for this one to be, it's kind of close to there, but you figure we're coming back at least to here, and there is room, but you may come back to here and you may end up making another leg up. So this is one of those that's, notice that low, you try to go lower once, twice, it fails and goes out the other side. We're probably going higher, and you see how everybody jumps in and starts buying. They trapped a lot of people. That's why this bar is so big and strong right here, because they trapped all these shorts down here. People trying to get short down here at the worst possible place. Down here, you need to be looking to go long. And then once it breaks out up here, if you get a good trend, you may think, hey, we may want to start looking for longs, but you want to at least wait for it to come back to the EMA again, and it just doesn't do it. It goes right through. And being this far away from the EMA on a break higher, it's probably going to fail. We're going to at least come back to here, and we're probably coming back. Notice how we never tested this when we pulled through. So we're going to come back and test that most likely. And notice that high, you're coming down, you get a first entry, you pull back, you get a second entry, and it fails. With a leg that strong and a second entry short here on a failed second entry long. That's why this signal bar doesn't much matter, because it's a failed second entry long. So when it broke lower here, this is really your signal bar, and you go short right there. There's a lower high here, but it's kind of made a double bottom. But when it pushes on through and pulls back, makes a failed second entry long, counting from there. I like going short right there. That's the better entry. But notice that's 2 legs back as well. And with that strong sell-off, you're probably going to get another leg. A measured leg. And look how we came down here, and we got about a measured leg, and we tried to bounce it, but we couldn't. The market was just too weak. And it keeps going. Notice how here, instead of correcting, it just keeps going sideways, and then it turns down. It's tempting to go short right there, but that's right into these previous lows. I don't have my line drawn across here. But you don't want to be going short into all that. It's too risky. And we end up overshooting this channel right here. And once you get overshoot, it comes up and you actually get a break of the brownish one. It moves to a low. We do try to make a little go higher twice, and there's a relatively bearish bar. But I don't like going short. I think the blue channel is the more dominant pattern, and this is more of a secondary pattern in my opinion. And we've already had a break or an overshoot here, so this thing may reverse. So I'm not crazy about going short. It's a possibility there, but with this trend channel line working down, I'm not going to go short right into it because this just may be an overshoot, and we may keep going higher and get a break. We may get back in the range up here and start going higher again. But it comes back up here and it's just kind of working sideways, and you come right back to the key entry point, and then there's a big bearish bar, and I like going short there just because it's the key entry point. Plus it's a retest of this breakout, and it's a double test. Notice that high, we tested it once, and then we came back and tested it again. I like going short there. You'd be better off to wait on a lower high, which comes right here, and that is a failed second entry long. The only reason I marked that one green is because it's so close to this low here, but this had moved down by this time. Never grab the right one. This had moved down by that time, and it does give you room there, but you still have to be leery of that little channel that's working across there. When we've bounced so many times across there and then we push through, it could come back down and hit there and bounce and turn right back up. And so that's why I marked that one green. But it is a trap, and generally a trap will push on through. Sometimes you have to create a trap to push it on through. So this is real close to being red. You could go either way with that one. I wouldn't be afraid to mark that one red, but I originally had it marked green for that reason. And that got you in the 2 o'clock hour, so nothing much after that. But there were some good entries here, and there were a couple of runners here. You would have got a runner on this, maybe got a runner on that, and there's another third that confirms this trend line right here that you might even. It's just after 2 o'clock, but it's it's getting on a little further into 2 o'clock than I like, but it's a possibility as well. I'll at least mark it green, but I'm not going to mark it red just because it's getting well into the 2 o'clock hour, and you got to be careful trading into that because you don't want to get stuck in a trade going sideways going into the 3 o'clock like this right here. Anybody that traded down here going into 3 o'clock got stuck here because you probably couldn't get out before 3 o'clock hit, and they kick you out. So that's why I don't like to trade this late in the day, because you can get stuck in stuff like that. Sure, you'll get some good moves like these two, and here's another one down. And this is actually a nice second entry that would have worked here, but it's just risky getting into a trade that late in the day because you will get stuck, and then you got to, to keep your day trading status, you have to exit, and most of your day trading brokers will boot you out anyway because they, that's just the way they're designed, so they'll automatically boot you out. So anyway, that's what I saw today. Not a great trading day, but not a bad trading day either. It was pretty predictable with the move up, the break, the new high, and then the failed break up here, and then selling off and trying to fill the gap. It wouldn't surprise me if we don't push on down and try to fill that. You can see we got to trade all the way back down into here, so a couple more points to fill that gap. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.